Episode number 422. Prodigiously, replied Athos in the name of himself, and his comrades. 67. Conclusion. On the 6th of the following month the king, in compliance with the promise he had made the cardinal to return to La Rochelle, left his capital still in amazement at the news, which began to spread itself of Buckingham's assassination. Although warned that the man she had loved so much was in great danger, the queen, when his death was announced, would not believe the fact, and even imprudently exclaimed, "It is false, he has just written to me." But the next day she was obliged to believe this fatal intelligence. Laporte, detained in England, as everyone else had been, by the orders of Charles I, arrived, and was the bearer of the Duke's dying gift to the Queen. The joy of the king was lively. He did not even give himself the trouble to dissemble, and displayed it with affectation before the Queen. Louis Roman XIII, like every weak mind, was wanting in generosity. But the king soon again became dull and indisposed. His brow was not one of those that long remain clear. He felt that in returning to camp he should re-enter slavery. Nevertheless, he did return. The cardinal was for him the fascinating serpent, and himself the bird which flies from branch to branch without power to escape. The return to La Rochelle, therefore, was profoundly dull. Our four friends, in particular, astonished their comrades. They travelled together, side by side, with sad eyes and heads lowered. Athos alone from time to time raised his expansive brow. A flash kindled in his eyes, and a bitter smile passed over his lips. Then, like his comrades, he sank again into reverie. As soon as the escort arrived in a city, when they had conducted the king to his quarters, the four friends either retired to their own, or to some secluded cabaret, where they neither drank nor played. They only conversed in a low voice, looking around attentively to see that no one overheard them. One day, when the king had halted to fly the magpie, and the four friends, according to their custom, instead of following the spot had stopped at a cabaret on the high road, a man coming from La Rochelle on horseback pulled up at the door to drink a glass of wine, and darted a searching glance into the room where the four musketeers were sitting. "Hullo, Monsieur d'Artagnan," said he, "is not that you whom I see yonder?" D'Artagnan raised his head and uttered a cry of joy. It was the man he called his phantom. It was his stranger of Meung, of the Rue des Fossoyeurs, and of Arras. D'Artagnan drew his sword, and sprang towards the door. But this time, instead of avoiding him, the stranger jumped from his horse, and advanced to meet D'Artagnan. "Ah, monsieur," said the young man, "I meet you, then, at last. This time you shall not escape me." "Neither is it my intention, monsieur, for this time I was seeking you. In the name of the king, I arrest you."